Heidi-ho, neighbor. Yes, I'm speaking to you, cunty, and your few sycophantic followers that you still have left. So as you prove what a hypocrite you are by going on social media and spreading gossip, I think there's a commandment about that, but you as Joan of Arc should know better than I, the heathen informant employed by the FBI. Even though I shouldn't have to share my private life on social media and nothing is compelling me to do so, I will continue to set the record straight on all of your bullshit lies because it helps to show people that I am an open and honest person. And if anyone has a question about me or my life or what role I have played in all of this mess, I am more than happy to share it with them. So let's go ahead and set the record straight. You see, I have been living in Nevada and been associated with the Bundys since 2014. I started seeing some of their lies, and therefore it caused me to ask questions to which there were no honest answers. The questions were evaded by the Bundys, or they would just kind of, smile and shrug, like they thought it was some grand lark and it was funny. And as a fellow member of the same church, I saw that they were lying to people and deceiving people. And unlike you, I didn't just insert myself into the situation. I was actually asked by Ammon to come up to Malheur. Now, of course, as everyone who's been following this recalls, we never saw your ass until everyone was in jail and you showed up and scurried out of the sewers of Portland and proclaimed yourself Joan of Arc, the only one that can interpret what the prophet Amhol has to say. Only you are the Bundy spokesperson. Do you know why that is? It's because you're an idiot. You're a useful idiot. And anything that the Bundys wanted to have said or wanted done, you willingly and unquestionably did it. So again, let me set the record straight here. Since you're now on the internet telling everyone I'm being foreclosed upon and I'm an informant, and let's see, since I've spoken to Brand over the weekend, let's also throw in there, Thomas Lacavera's papers say that she's an informant. But let me clue you into a few things, okay? Ammon asked me to come to Malheur. I left my home in Nevada to go do that because I was fearful that people were going to die because this was a foolhardy endeavor, which I carefully tried to explain to the Bundys. But of course, they didn't want to listen because they have their agenda, and too many people are so willing to help them accomplish it. Even though these people have nothing to do with lands rights or grazing and water rights, they jumped on board because they liked the lawless criminal element. That is the only reason they were there, and that is the only reason that they still have the supporters that they do. These are people that are itching for a fight. So unlike what you would have done, because you're a bloodthirsty little cunt, I actually tried to spare people from losing their life in Oregon. And that is why I took Thomas Lacavera's information and gave it to the FBI. I had no idea people like you and Deborah Sue Venatucci and Sarah Redbuck and the rest of your clown crew were going to show up and turn this into a grifting debacle. So, contrary to your revelations or visions or whatever it is that you think that you receive, you're not a good Christian woman, okay? And right now, I want everyone that's watching this to take note that this woman is a goat farmer. And we're going to discuss the significance of goats to the Lord, okay? So, in January, when I showed up at Malheur, again, I was requested to be there by Ammon, your favorite little prophet. And since I come from the same church as him, let me tell you something, you stupid twit. The man is warping, misconstruing, and distorting LDS doctrine. And because you are not of the same faith, you have no fucking clue what is going on. So, when I got to Malheur and I saw all of the deception that was taking place, and I saw the people up there that were just criminals and wanted to have a bone to pick with the government, and here was someone that they could stand with, and their safety in numbers, that's exactly what was going on. So when your little scrawny goat herder ass showed up in Portland, we couldn't figure out who the hell this chick was. So let me tell you, if anyone is an informant or a rabble-rouser or a provocateur, you people need look no further than Cunty Stewart, okay? Because the only thing that I have ever told people to do is cut the nonsense, quit being lawless, and there is a better way to have a discussion and to push back against too much government control. But see, that's not what you people want. You want bloodshed. And guess what? The Lord doesn't advocate for bloodshed. So you can go and take and steal all of the quotes you want, not give proper attribution, and wear it around your shoulders like it's a cloak of validity. And at the end of the day, you're still wrong. Because you give a mixed message. You sit there and say, love your neighbor. But then you advocate for hard stands and, the tree of liberty has to be watered with the blood of tyrants. So your message is really off there. My message has been consistent the entire time. Follow the law. If you don't like the law, then go get it changed. There are mechanisms by which we do that. It's called legislation, okay? So for as much as you people want to push the Constitution, you completely disregard the sections that talk about the Congress and what their role and function is. So maybe it's time to start actually reading this stuff that you go around and beat everyone else over the head with. See, I've done my studies. I have my degrees. And I've done this my entire life. Not because I had some vision as I was milking my goat in my backyard. This is who I am. And it's something you will never have. You will never have the validity that I have, Cunty. Never. I grew up in the Sagebrush Rebellion. I'm from Utah. I knew Bert Smith personally. My grandmother worked for Bert Smith for over 20 years. My grandfather's dairy farm was 3 miles from Bert Smith's store. And in case you don't know, he is the author of the Sagebrush Rebellion. So you continue to propagate your false bullshit of how you're Joan of Arc and you understand why everybody hates you because you're consumed with the Spirit and everything you say is holy and it's inspired and you are of God. You are not of God, okay? The goats are on the left hand of God. The goats are the bad. The sheep are the good. But see, if you were a real Christian, you would know that. So everyone needs to start looking at these little signs that God has actually been sending you. Cunty and goats are bad. Stop following her and the other radicals. No, spilling blood is not the first line of defense when your government is enacting too many laws. Talking to your local elected officials is the first line of defense. Go get your neighbors, go get your mother's room, school PTA group, whatever group you want to get, and you go talk to your officials and you get laws changed. So if you keep going the way that Cunty and the other radicals want you to go, then you're only going to end up with more trouble on your hands. And see, that's not the way of God, because God doesn't rule in chaos. God rules via law and order. So let me backtrack a little bit now that we know that Cunty and goats are bad and they stand on the left hand of God while sheep stand on the right hand of God. And let's talk about Oregon. See, I was actually there. My life was in danger, as were everyone else's that were there. And I sought to prevent bloodshed because, yes, Cunty, I know about Waco and I know about Ruby Ridge because I am part of the Western movement, but I do it via law and order, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that because laws protect us in this country. They don't just condemn us, they also protect us. So let's hit a couple of points. First off, I did support the Bundys at first because I didn't know they were a radical cult. See, they kept that portion of their rhetoric toned down during the 2 years between Bunkerville and Malheur. After Malheur and during Malheur, I started seeing little snippets of it come out. And that is why I turned on these people, because I saw that they were a cult And as all cults always have and always will, they lead people astray via false doctrine. And just because they don't have convictions does not mean that they're not guilty. There are plenty of people who have done very bad and heinous acts and never stood to account in this temporal mortal life that we live in. Okay? Jack the Ripper was never caught. So let's not equate going through the legal process as someone is innocent in deeds, thought, and heart. Because no one gets away with fooling the Lord when they stand before the judgment bar of Christ. So in Oregon, I was considered an unindicted person of interest in this whole thing, and I'm going to prove it. So here's something you have to fill out when you are getting government counsel. And yes, I've covered up where I work because it's none of your fucking business. Okay, so I was a student, and I'm also going to show you the business card of the person I dealt with in Oregon. Okay, see that says Federal Public Defender? Because I was actually going to testify for Pete. Pete had asked me to testify for him. And I actually volunteered to testify that Shauna Cox did not have a weapon at Malheur because she didn't. And whether I like Shauna or think she's a dingy broad who ought to stay home and take up knitting is irrelevant. I tell the truth. Shauna Cox didn't have a gun in Malheur. Her comment to me was, I forgot it. Like her little six-shooter is going to do anything against a federal government that can take on any of the third world armies in existence today. So I changed where my position was because I saw the lies, I saw the warping of LDS doctrine, and I saw the cult via people like you that was beginning to form. And it was primarily comprised of people who had a bone to pick with the government and wanted someone else to stand shoulder to shoulder with. And here's a little aside for you, Joseph O'Shaughnessy, since you chimed in on this jackass bitches comment thread. And let everyone know that Joseph is also excommunicated from the LDS Church. And yes, he was drinking and partying while we were up in Burns because my room was just a couple of doors down from his. So Joe has been brainwashed and mind manipulated, just like so many other people have done. And while I'm not forced to tell anyone my personal business, I will continue to do it because it helps show that I'm willing to be honest, even though it might be something that's embarrassing. And then you can compare it to this stupid jackass goat herder that makes soap on the weekends and abandons her husband and abandons her children so she can run around the country and feel like she's doing something when she's actually not. And I will continue to set the record straight. And, you know, if it causes me embarrassment or it's something that you all want to sit in judgment on, be my guest. Doesn't bother me in the least bit. So here's the truth. I actually had my house foreclosed upon back in, March of 2016. So just while I was coming home from Malheur, my home was foreclosed upon. And the reason why is because I was in the middle of renegotiating my loan because Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada, had been hit the hardest in the entire nation by the recession. I went from making a six-figure income down to zip. And I decided to go back to school to finish my education so that I could actually fight the system or fight the man by doing it in a legal forum, the law, because I believe in law and order. It is what makes us civilized compared to other countries. So my home was actually foreclosed upon in 2016, but by God's graces, the man that bought it allowed me to rent back from him with the intention of eventually buying back from him. So how Cunty is getting this information is via gossip. And so idle tongues are wagging because I gave the information to Brand as I wanted him to spread it. And I talked to Brand Thornton within the last couple of days. So that's where the information is coming from, and that's why it's coming out right now, is because I planted the story. Just to prove a point to you people that you are so easily manipulated via social media, it's not even funny. Now, my words can be proven because anybody can go on the internet and do your research and see that I'm speaking the truth. So my home was actually foreclosed upon back in 2016. Where I'm sitting right now, this is still my home, still in the same building. Nothing has changed. And you're listening to this woman who's telling you to be a Christian and love your neighbor as she spreads salacious, untrue gossip. So if you want to continue to follow this little rat that lives up in Washington, has nothing to do with Nevada, has no ties to land issues, grazing issues. She's just a bored housewife who abdicates her duties to her husband and her children so that she can feed her narcissistic personality disorder. Go ahead. Because as I've stated, in any post, in any video, in any comment I have ever made, I have only told people to cut with the bullshit, quit trying to think that you're all some big army and hard asses. I can probably explain to you 100 million times better why, we the people matters. And it's not just we the people, it's we the people of the entire United States, okay? So let's start reading all of the text of the Constitution. Let's start reading all of the text of the Bible. Let's start reading all of the text of the laws that are passed in this country, okay? And just to get ahead of this little gossip machine, I've also filed bankruptcy. Because see, when you go from making a six-figure salary and you live in the city and state that is hardest hit by the recession, your life kind of gets upended. But again, let me go ahead and give another shout out for the law. There's actually a law that protects me so that I don't have to go sit in the Queen's debtor's prison, which I'm sure none of you know anything about because you're actually learning from idiots who just sit there and say shit that you'll respond to and give a thumbs up or a heart to on social media. I filed a bankruptcy. Not because I had gone out and spent a bunch of money on things I couldn't afford, but because the recession hit and I lost my job. And I chose at that point to either go pick up 1, 2, 3 jobs, whatever it took, or to go back to school and finish my education. It was a gamble I made. But you know what? I'm a risk taker. And that's why I was in Malheur and Cunty wasn't. But you keep following her. And so Joseph O'Shaughnessy, shut up. You're an idiot and you've been mind manipulated by the bunnies, just like so many other people have. And I'm sick and tired of you people who have been excommunicated by the LDS Church coming on and telling those of us that are in good standing that we're wrong. No, 15 million of us aren't wrong. You're wrong and you're following a cult.